Welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. What's going on, Mr. Seriously? Levi, what's going on? Good afternoon. Actually, it's Air Drake covering Mr. Seriously. Tamakazi actually does his Sunday night classes. So I cover the weekly recaps, pretty much covering what happened during the day, more or less. Some things to look forward to. And he covers every Sunday night, so you know, all right? What's going on, The Rich? She was mooning. I think all of Bitcoin is mooning right now. Actually, let me look at Bitcoin real quick before we actually start. Let me take a look at Bitcoin. Where's crypto? Crypto, crypto. Actually, nah, we're kind of down. But we're holding still. According to my friend Straight here, Bitcoin is actually going to 58,000, and that's where he actually plans to short. So I am riding with him on that. He's more so our crypto expert in this area. So I'll ride with him on that. 58,000 is his target, and then he expects to pull back. So we still got about another, what, 3,000 and change to hit that target. So we got some more room to run. I do expect this to actually run hard through the weekend because that's usually what happens. And especially during the nights is when crypto actually runs a lot more. So just something to keep in mind. But other than that, today was more so a little painful because of the fact that how the market was moving. Pull back to where? Well, that part I haven't figured out. I'm gonna have to talk to Straight because I know that he has his Bitcoin all charted up as far as where it would pull back. Now, if I'm looking for an immediate consolidation type pullback, then I'm looking at 51 here. Because as you see, that's where the most recent consolidation is here that we had. And so I would like to see this actually pull back to that consolidation. That would be the first pullback I would see. If we're going to rip all the way up to 58, in which, we've made leg after leg going higher, then I would expect 51 to be the first level of support that Bitcoin's going to find before it continues to consolidate. Once out, and that's after it hits that 58,000 target. Okay, so I don't expect it to necessarily get that pullback now. I think it's going to continue to staircase its way up. As you see, you get those that pretty much an elevator. It's not even a staircase. That's an elevator up, and then you pretty much go sideways as a consolidation before the next leg up. But 58 is his target. If I were looking for that first level of support, and once we do hit that 58 target, then 51 would be that level so far. But I expect there to be more consolidation along the staircase up here that you're seeing. All right. But back to the market today of what we really saw. Today was really just a choppy day for the most part. If you actually got into the Oracle yesterday that went off, actually it wasn't the Oracle, it was the level 5 put that went off. And so if you actually took that, you would have needed to get out pretty much right into open, if not a little bit after, because of the fact that you saw how much we ended up chopping, and then the market just decided to boom off of that news from the debt ceiling. And that was kind of that trigger that just started the rally today and breaking the downtrends. But we were pretty much just in a box. And if I probably go down to the 3 minute, we'll probably get a better picture of that box in which we chopped pretty much all morning after that dip at 10 o'clock in the morning. We pretty much just chopped all the way going sideways until we had that news and then we just ripped off. And so that was not exactly what I was expecting. I am glad that I ended up taking profits on that level 5 put for that was on SPY. So I'm glad I ended up taking those profits into the morning. I probably got out somewhere around that first candle and then it continued to drop and I'm like, wow, I sold early. But that's the thing is that you never know at what point you're going to get that kind of reversal, especially when the fact that the market is in bear territory and we're already in oversold territory at that point in time. And so that's what you saw, this rip, that massive rip, because of the fact that we were pretty much more or less in oversold territory. Stocks rallied pretty hard, and I actually didn't hold anything into overnight. So I'm pretty much all cash tonight because despite the fact that we ended up having this breakout and QQQ actually looks a little bit better on the breakout, and I'll get to that one. But I wanted to see the follow through tomorrow, and that's what I really wanted to see because as you remember, I actually had a descending, expanding wedge here in which I was expecting to get that next leg down somewhat of a flush today. That didn't end up happening today. I was actually expecting that following the two recent oracles that we had, the two put oracles, and then that level 5 put yesterday. I was expecting that flush. That did not happen that way. And so that's why I said I got out right at open. It was just more so gut feeling that I ended up taking my profits at that point. But I want to see this end up breaking the resistance tomorrow. That's what the key is right now to me. I want to see us get over this resistance. And as you see, futures are flying right now. But that was what I wanted to see is the follow through on this breakout going into tomorrow morning. And then we also do have jobless claims tomorrow, which is really a highlight of this week because we also have non-farm payrolls on Friday as well. So that's going to be another key data that's the market's going to be watching very keen on Friday morning. So my biggest takeaway today was that I wanted to go cash overnight and I wanted to see the follow through that we would have tomorrow morning. I didn't necessarily want to buy into the rip that we saw into close because that pretty much kind of indicated to me that we're likely going to get some kind of pullback at least tomorrow, even if we do get a continuation. So that may end up presenting itself as a buying opportunity tomorrow morning, despite how futures are moving right now. Okay. So that was just my thought process right now. I thought I'd share with everyone. Uh, Big takeaway is that don't feel pressure to have to, do it overnight, play every day. In this market, you have to be very selective, especially the fact that we were in bear territory. If you ended up taking swings, as we saw, Friday we rallied, Monday was a bloodfest. I think me and Avi were complaining. It was like having a needle in our eye watching that bloodfest because we gapped down so early on Monday and it was just going sideways, not barely a bounce. Then Tuesday we got a nice push. Today we ended up gapping down just a bit before we ended up going back green. So we've been seesawing up and down, but drastic movements in SPY. And that's why I want to see a steady continuation in terms of breaking this downtrend that we did today. So I want to see the follow through is what I want to see. And that's why I didn't feel the need to have to take an overnight tonight is what I wanted to stress to you. Because like someone actually took out Baba yesterday. Although Super Fortuna Beta went off yesterday, they went in with a pretty deep sized position, which they technically shouldn't have. You shouldn't do that with any algo that goes off. You should not go heavy into any position, despite what it is, right? But they went in and Baba actually dropped just a little bit this morning before recovering. Hopefully, likely, I mean, they recovered their portfolio because of the fact that it went green. But again, don't force situations like that is my big takeaway for everyone, okay? Tonight, don't feel the need to have to be in a position like today. If you actually held out of the money positions, either up or down for that matter, and far, you pretty much got eaten up by data because of all that chop that we had today. When you heard me and Dapper being like, this is so boring to watch. If you had out of the money positions at that point in time, you were just eating data alive, especially on names like Tesla and on Amazon. Okay. But again, back to SPY. Like I said, I want to see the follow through. I want to see these futures hold right now. That's pumping right now. And so that's what I'm going to be looking at SPY. Now going into QQQ, a little bit of a different story. We actually got a little bit more of a cleaner breakout on the Qs. And that was a nice rally that we saw. Amazon had a nice push. Shopify had a nice push. Apple had a major push. We got like about a $2 rip from when it actually broke the downtrend, pushing near 142. And then major call flow came in on this one. So that one's going to be a nice one to see if it pushes tomorrow. But again, I want to see that follow through. If we get a push right into the Qs, right into about 361, that would be a beautiful push. And then once we get over 363 on the Qs, then of course, then we're looking at that gap fill above. But again, we need to see that continuation on this breakout. I don't want to end up seeing this being as a false breakout tomorrow. Okay, so that's what I'll be keeping an eye on the cues tomorrow. Again, the level I'm watching is 371.76, and then above that I'm watching 363.37 to end up getting towards that gap fill above. Okay, so those are the two levels I'm watching on that. Someone did mention Tesla, so I'll get that one out of the way right now. I'll pull out the chart so you see pretty much larger picture. So again, we have that large ascending channel basically is what we have going on here. As we saw, we're pretty much chopping. This is when we actually had that delivery numbers. We got that spike, but then we ended up fading back down. And so as of today's action that ended up taking place, I was looking at the descending expanding wedge here. Same scenario that we ended up having more or less with pretty much the Qs and SPY. It was a descending expanding wedge. And so right now we actually look like an inverted head and shoulders right now. And that's why once I got up here and I took that ride down on this major candle, that's when I got out. You pretty much heard me saying I was getting puts. That was right around this close enough to 784 level. And I took that ride all the way down. It was about a good $4 or $5 move that I caught on that. And I just went in the money and pretty much a decent sized position. I caught that move. But then I ended up seeing that we do have an inverted head and shoulders. So you have that left shoulder right here, that head, and now we just formed that right shoulder. As you saw, we pushed right into the close and overall in tech. And that's why I said the Qs do look better than S&P does. And so am expecting a nice little gap up. We'll see what their shareholder meeting, what they say, what they do, basically. But that level that we need to get over is that 785.49 level. That's the level that I'm going to be watching. If we get over to that, then we have that level of 791 is the target. I believe Avery also has the same target, if I'm not mistaken, about 791. So we'll see that get that nice push over 79, 791. Then ballpark, we're looking at 800s. And then we'll assess that during live tomorrow if we see that break above 800s. That I don't expect that to end up happening. But we'll see. We'll address it on live if it ends up pushing over 800 or close enough, and we'll address what the next target is at that point. All right. But again, we want to see it push over that 785 level. That was basically right where it tapped resistance right here, near about. It was about 50 cents shy, and then it ended up rejecting and falling back down to form that right shoulder. So that's what I'll be watching with Tesla again tomorrow because Tesla just seems so easily to play right now because of the fact that it's not drastic moves. As you saw, it's been a little bit more of a chop scenario. But once we do get the breakout, I'll be here for it tomorrow with calls if we end up breaking over that 785 level. And I'll take that right over to 791 and I'll see where it goes from there. All right. But Tesla does look bullish. That's a perfect bullish play tomorrow if the market is suitable for that play. All right. I did cover Apple. One that I know was actually pretty heavy on everyone's target was Coin. And I actually just saw someone mention in the chat here. Chirag, I see you. I see you probably were listening to Avery because I know that Avery was pretty much bragging about Coin. And if I'm not mistaken, I know that Dan pretty much took a position. I don't know if he held it overnight or not, but we had a beautiful falling wedge. We had a massive breakout. We created some nice gaps, about two gaps along the way here. But we need to see this get over that level of that's 252, 352. No, my eyes are really deceiving me. It's 252. I apologize. So 252 would be that level that we need to see a push over. And then the next level of target that I'm looking at will be 262. Will be that next level that we see as a prior peak or resistance. Okay. So those will be the two levels that I'm watching. And then over that, then we're going to be looking to test this upper level here of that 280, which given the fact of how Bitcoin's going to be running, I can see that 280 hitting by next week. Granted, we still have a decent sized move to cover on Bitcoin up to that 58,000 target. So I can definitely see this rallying. As we saw here previously, we had a nice little falling wedge here previously and almost similar price action going straight up. Now, I don't necessarily expect that to happen, but coin it has such their volatility in coin is so insane as it is with the cryptos currencies. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up shooting right up to 280, likely by Monday or Tuesday of next week. Right? That does not mean that you go crazy buying out of the money, but it's definitely going to be on the radar tomorrow. I'm sure Avery's going to be talking about it and calling it out play by play tomorrow. So keep an eye on that from him tomorrow. But coin is definitely bullish as we see crypto is going to be pushing. All right. So that pretty much covers coin, and Avery's going to talk more about that tomorrow. Now, pretty much probably the biggest play of the day was AFRM. Now, did anyone actually catch this play? Anyone caught it like in the middle of the spike? This was a beautiful move that he made. I I pretty much saw it and I'm like, I'm not chasing this. I mean, it's just not my style to chase these kind of plays. But and then I believe was it Julian actually ended up getting a put on it, and that didn't go so well. He got destroyed on it. When you see strength like this, especially like how Netflix also was, shorting names like that, when you see relative strength in a weak market, is not the very wisest move to do. If you are going to do it, pretty much do it like Julian did. He did it with funds that he was willing to risk when you're trying to short such strength in the market. You want to do it with a small amount of funds, basically something that you're willing to risk. Don't go in heavy trying to time the reversal yourself. But on a larger scale to note on the 4 hour here, you do see that the resistance lines do align. We did hit a new high on AFRM here. So that's something key to note. We're going to get some kind of retracement here. We could end up chopping right along the resistance, and that's why I say don't try to time that reversal because we could end up chopping up top here as the market goes bullish into bullish territory. Okay, so don't try to time this. I would wait for the weakness to show itself and wait for market weakness to actually be in the favor of trying to play that downside. Okay. But just something to keep in mind, you are near that resistance. So that's something to keep in mind. Once that market starts to show weakness, this will be something that you want to look to short at that time. Just not yet. Okay. Another name that actually caught my attention was Microsoft. Microsoft actually had a nice little, what I would say is a channel down for this matter. It was a beautiful little channel that we have, and as we saw, it broke right out of that channel today. Pretty much similar to what I'm going to show on Apple, but we're flashing that breakout signal. We want to see that follow through tomorrow and get into this gap. We have a nice little gap here right above this level of 296. We're going to 296.47. We're going to see a nice little gap fill right there. And so that'll be on watch tomorrow if the Qs do continue to push. And I will be here for that tomorrow morning along with Tesla. So those will probably be the top two names that I'm watching. Not necessarily Apple to a certain degree, but Apple will also be on my radar, and I should be getting to that one soon. PayPal is another one that I was watching. This is a descending expanding wedge basically, and so we're gonna see how this one actually does tomorrow. I do like the price action that it showed today, despite the early weakness that we had in the day. And so I'm gonna like to see this one push right up to that resistance. And this actually kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with Square. I know that Avery was pretty big on Square today also. So we'll see a nice little push, and this also has ties to crypto as well. So this may end up having a nice little rally here as well behind the crypto. Okay, so we'll keep that in mind. But that level that I'm looking to see is that 269 level, and then we should get that break right over 270 over to the resistance of this wedge, and that'll be something on watch as well tomorrow. So a few names to keep on watch. APPS is another one. If you guys actually remember, this one was on the newsletter back to back weeks. I actually had it, and then Dougie had it, and I believe Tom was still pretty big on APPS. But this actually had a nice, beautiful double bottom here, right around that low 69 level. We had a beautiful push, and as you saw, we ended up getting right up to that resistance level of the double bottom, in which we pretty much evened out with the previous high. And we also filled the gap basically as well. So I'm going to see if we end up getting pretty much the retracement as you should get on the double bottom. I'm going to look to see if there's any kind of retracement in which it should end up retracing down, at least if I were to say it should end up retracing at least down to see the level that I want to look at. Yeah, if I'm looking at a level, it would be right around this level of 72. So that'll be at least a decent sized retracement on this double bottom that I'll be looking at to go long on this for the next leg up. As we remember, we had a beautiful little wedge that it broke out of. And the overall target that I have was 88 on that blue line. So we should get a nice continuation out of this, targeting that 88 level. And so that's what I'm going to be watching because this one does have nice fluidity to it. It does have nice movement. And so I'll be watching for that, any kind of weakness on that pullback near to that 72 level to go long. And if we are, if we do confirm a bull market tomorrow or by the end of the week rather, because it could take a little more time. We also do have the non-farm payrolls on Friday. Then I will take a swing on this one, possibly into the weekend and into next week if we confirm a bull market. Okay, so that's one other one. I don't know why I didn't have Apple there, but let me actually pull up Apple real quick. If everyone saw Apple today, it pretty much broke right out of the wedge that we had. And similar to the flashing breakout of Microsoft, we're right out of the resistance, but we need confirmation on this breakout. We need to see a follow through tomorrow. And so that's what we'll be watching tomorrow. Despite the little push that they had right into close, we're likely going to see some kind of retracement. I'm expecting tomorrow. Again, despite how futures do look, again, we do have data tomorrow morning, but I do expect a buying opportunity come tomorrow morning, and then that'll be the point where you go long if the market is suitable, and presents itself for the Qs to continue pushing. Okay, so Apple's definitely on watch along with the other Q names that I mentioned. But Microsoft and Tesla is pretty much at the top of my list for the most part when it comes to tech. Those are the two names that I'm a little bit more interested in than Apple. Apple's more of a longer term play. If you're going out multiple days, more than maybe more than a week, I think that's more so a better play. But I'm trying to capture a bigger move, maybe a possible bigger runner, and that's why I would choose Tesla or Microsoft personally. But Apple should have a nice move going into tomorrow as well. All right. But those are pretty much the names that I'm watching, the names that I think are pretty much going to be on high alert. AFRM again and Coin, they had beautiful moves today. We're going to see if there's any kind of continuation on that. I'm more so expecting continuation on Coin than AFRM. I think AFRM is going to get some kind of consolidation, likely off of this move. If we'll see if it ends up breaking that resistance level. Again, don't short it until we see some kind of weakness in the market. Then you can take advantage of shorting AFRM at that point. I wouldn't force a put on AFRM. Being that you caught the ride up, you missed the ride up, you don't want to end up forcing it to try and say, okay, no, I'm going to be here for the ride down. Don't do that. Bad choice to do that, right? Wait for the market to give you that opportunity. And when that weakness presents itself, then you'll be there for the short. All right. Other than that, we saw a few names. Again, yesterday we saw Baba and Baidu go off on Super Fortuna Beta. And now Apple did recover, so we'll see. We'll likely see if there's any continuation. It was up about $1 after hours as well, and it closed green on the day. So we could see a nice little continuation off of that. Looking at futures real quickly, see if I take a look. Yeah, we're actually pushing very nicely. Nasdaq is pretty much up about close to 60 points, and S&P is holding about a 13-point gain, almost 14-point gain. So we'll see what happens with those with futures here tomorrow morning. Again, we have the job loss claims. Then Friday we also have the non-farm payroll. So I don't know if both of them are actually going to be good and we rally both days. But I just want to see a confirmation of the bull market in terms of getting a nice little continuation from that push we had into the end of the day today. That's the biggest takeaway from today. And that's why I want to see that continuation before I end up dipping my toe back in, and I didn't want to force that overnight for that reason. All right. Other than that, I think that kind of wraps up our session tonight, guys. We'll be on live tomorrow. We'll see what the market gives us, and we'll go from there. But other than that, I did see you just mention that name real quick. I'll just cover it real quick before I close out right here on LPX. Let me see. Looks like a decent sized falling wedge. You have a nice little falling wedge action right here. Now, the only other thing that I don't particularly like is what I see. It looks like a little bit like a head and shoulders. So if you actually notice, you have a left shoulder right here. You have the head right here. And then you also have a right shoulder right here. So keep that in mind. But I would look to see if this breaks out of that falling wedge. And that could be an actionable play right there. Now, given the fact that I actually seen left head and shoulders actually break up rather than break down as they should. Prime example, which I'll show you real quick, was UPST today. And I don't know if anyone heard me and Avery actually talking about that today. I probably have to pull out to the 30 minutes. Yeah, the 30-minute actually shows a little better scenario. But if you actually saw, we had a left shoulder right here. We had a massive head. And then we had a right shoulder right here. But guess what? We ended up ripping right out of that right shoulder and popping. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, I don't know if that's really a trend right now due to the market conditions. I've seen more than one head and shoulder actually break down, meaning fail. They actually break up. So anything's possible. So keep LPX still on the radar despite me identifying a head and shoulders. If it breaks out of that falling wedge, you do have an action to have the head and shoulders voided, in which it just takes right off. All right. But other than that, guys, I think that wraps up tonight's session. Izzy, appreciate that comment. Again, join the Discord if you're not in there. The crypto section is wild. Don't be afraid to actually bother our friend straight in there. You can send him a lot of DMs. He answers to everyone. He'll tell you exactly what targets are what on crypto coins. And if you want to bother him about SHIB, about Dogecoin, he's all for it, okay? Just want to give you that heads up. But other than that, you guys have a good night. We'll see you guys on live tomorrow. And that kind of